Paul McCartney and the Fateful fall on stage. That night, the London sky was covered in black velvet dotted with sparkling stars. More than 50,000 spectators gathered at Wembley Stadium, where a special concert called the Legacy Tour, a tour to pay tribute to Paul McCartney's six-decade musical journey, took place. At the age of 82, he was still a living symbol of world music, still passionate and burning on stage as he had always been with the Beatles. The stage lights were bright. Cheers, flags were waving high, and tears of emotion from fans spanned all generations. When McCartney stepped out, his familiar Hofner guitar slung across his shoulder, he smiled brightly, his eyes still full of vitality. "Good evening, London." His voice rang out, still as warm as ever. And then the first notes of Can't Buy Me Love rang out, pulling the entire sea of people into rhythm. Everything seemed perfect until the finale of the seventh act, Live and Let Die. Just as the flares were going off and the drums were pounding, Paul, in an unexpected moment, slipped on the stage, having been doused in a bottle of water by a backstage attendant. The music stopped abruptly. Paul fell backwards, hitting his head on the wooden floor. The stage stopped, the instruments stopped. The crowd was silent for a few seconds, then erupted in panic. A moment of chaos. "Stop the music. Stop everything," the show's director shouted over the intercom. Technicians, security guards, and medical staff rushed onto the stage. McCartney lay motionless, blood dripping from the back of his head. The onlookers in the front row stared, some covering their mouths in disbelief. Ringo Starr, his tour mate, rushed to his side. "Paul, can you hear me?" Ringo's voice was shaking. A terrifying moment, because no one thought such a glorious night could turn grey in the blink of an eye. The entire stadium was plunged into anxiety. The medical team quickly secured his neck, put him on a stretcher and left the stage. "We'll stop here for the night. We'll make an announcement soon. Thank you for your understanding," a voice boomed over the PA system. In the hospital, between life and death. Paul was taken to nearby St. Mary's Hospital. Doctors determined that he had suffered a head injury, minor rib fractures and a concussion. The news quickly spread across the newspapers. Paul McCartney rushed to hospital after fall on stage. Millions of fans around the world expressed their concern, prayed, and left thousands of messages of support on social media. In the recovery room, Paul lay unconscious for nearly 2 hours. Linda, his second wife, held his hand and whispered quietly in his ear, "Paul, you can't stop playing music. There are so many people waiting for you to come back." When the clock struck 3 a.m., he opened his eyes. His first glance was at Linda, then he smiled slightly. "Did you ruin the show?" Linda burst into tears. Paul was alive. That was all the world needed at that moment. The story behind the fall. 2 days later, Paul was allowed to leave his hospital bed and walk around. At a brief press conference at the hospital, he appeared with a white bandage wrapped around his forehead, but his smile was still radiant. "I don't remember the fall very much," he joked, "but I do remember that I survived, and I owe you all that." Reporters peppered him with questions. Would he return to the stage? Would the tour be cancelled? Paul simply shook his head. "I've never let a fall stop me from playing music. Not even a meter on Wembley." In the days that followed, a heartbreaking revelation emerged. Before the show, Paul had felt dizzy and was advised by his doctor to rest. But he refused. The audience has waited for me for months. They deserve the music. Recovery and return. After 3 weeks of treatment and physiotherapy, Paul announced that he would continue the tour. I don't want that fall to be my last chapter on stage. The first comeback night took place in Amsterdam. The stage was redesigned to ensure absolute safety, with a modern anti-skid system. But the most special thing was his opening line. I fell, but the music picked me up. He began singing Let It Be, for the first time without a piano, but sitting at the piano, looking deeply at the audience as if to say thank you for being there for him at his weakest. Inspiration from pain. No one expected that fall to become an emotional turning point in Paul McCartney's career. He wrote a new song called Fall and Rise, about being knocked down by the unpredictable, and how one can rise again thanks to love and music. The lyrics include, I fell before the final chord, but love's the sound I can't ignore. I rise again, with broken pride, for music walks me back inside. The song was recorded in his private studio at his home in Sussex, featuring only piano, a light guitar and deep vocals. Upon its release, Fall and Rise quickly topped the iTunes charts in 37 countries. More than a song, it was a message from an artist who had gone through time, trials and even physical pain. A living legacy. As the tour ended in New York, Paul stood on the Madison Square Garden stage, his eyes looking up at the twinkling lights. I don't know how many more nights like this I have left, he said. But I know for sure, every time I stand here, it's a gift I never take for granted. The audience stood up and applauded for 5 minutes. Many cried, many held up signs that read "Thank you, Paul." He bowed deeply. This time, he did not fall, but stood firm, the way he had stood for more than 60 years in the public's heart. A new chapter, not the last. After the tour, Paul announced that he would release a memoir, The Fall That Made Me Rise, a narrative that not only tells the story of his fall on stage, but also his journey of growing up, facing loss, with the departure of John Lennon, George Harrison, and many other relatives. The book sold out within 24 hours of its release. In it, he wrote, "I'm not afraid of falling. I'm just afraid of not having the courage to stand up."